What is up, guys? This is Zach from Angler's Escape, and today I have 5 great bass fishing lures for lakes, and I want to go ahead and make this video short and sweet, so let's go ahead and get started with number 1. And number 1 is the Rapala jointed crankbait. And how about I just go ahead and show you guys all these lures up front, and then I'll go more in depth on them. So number 1, Rapala jointed crankbait. Number 2, a Carolina rigged worm. Number 3, a tungsten spoon. Number 4 is a square-billed Kevin Van Dam crankbait, and number 5 is a small inline spinner like Blue Fox or Panther Martin. So now going back to number 1, my favorite bass fishing lure for lakes is the Rapala jointed crankbait. And what's nice about this is you can get some pretty large bills on these, and this allows it to dive pretty deep. So if you're fishing deep water in lakes or open water, it gets down to the depth where the fish are, and it has amazing action. This joint right here just flutters, goes all over the place, and I catch tons of fish on. It's one of my favorite crankbaits. Definitely something to try out. And so let's go ahead and move on to number 2. And number 2 is the Carolina rigged worm. And so real quick, I want to show you what I mean by the Carolina rig. And basically, I just have an offset hook like this. That's a worm hook. And I have usually a 6 to 8 inch worm. And then once I hook the worm on, I have about a 1 to 2 foot leader to a swivel. Then I have a small bead and then a bullet weight. The bead just keeps the bullet weight from getting stuck on the swivel. But basically what this allows me to do is, this is the weight right here. So this sinks down and then the worm just kind of freely flutters behind it. Another thing I like to do is sometimes instead of the Carolina rig, I'll just rig my worm with a little weighted hook. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to mess with all the swivels and everything else. You can just tie this on and start casting away. Another nice aspect about this is it's fairly snagless and weedless. As you can see, I've taken the hook tip and just embedded that into the actual plastic itself. So now when the bass bite down, it instantly exposes that hook and I can set it. But if it hits a snag or something, it'll just glide right over it. And so that's number 2, and let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Number 3 is the tungsten spoon. And what's nice about a tungsten spoon is it's almost twice as dense as lead, so you can get a lot smaller spoon, but you still have the casting distance, and it sinks a lot faster. So if the bass are really deep, like in the summer, you can vertically jig for them. It falls real fast, it has a real nice flutter. This just happens to be the Bass Pro XPS tungsten spoon. Tungsten spoons are nice just because they're so dense, they cast farther and they sink faster. And that's the Kevin Van Dam square-billed crankbait. Right here is the shad color. This is more of a bluegill color. But these things are real nice for shallow water fishing in lakes. They're one of my favorite crankbaits behind the Rapala jointed minnow. I actually caught my personal best bass on a 1.5 Kevin Van Dam still. But basically, you fish these in about when the water's less than 6 feet deep, because they go down to about 3 feet, or if the bass are near the surface. But they're a great crankbait, they have an excellent wobble, and I catch a lot of fish on them. So now let's move on to number 5. And number 5 is inline spinner, like Blue Fox, Panther Martin, some great inline spinner brands. But the nice thing about these is you can catch a lot of bass. I find like I have one of the highest catch ratios with these. However, the problem is the bass size is a little smaller. So if I'm doing a competition with friends to see who can catch the most bass, I'm definitely going to tie on an inline spinner, and a lot of times I can outfish them. It's just a lot of times I'll have smaller bass that I'm catching. So I hope you learned something here today, and maybe you'll try out one of these lures, and thanks for watching.